Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 21st of December to the 28th of December. It's the last regular digest of the year. I'm recording digests all week. I have several series of videos I've wanted to do. I've wanted to make digests on just to comment on various anime YouTube videos, including the best of 2020. Which will be hopefully at the end of this week. But I hope you enjoy that. But, let's first talk about some videos that I thought were not good. And this one is it's from ThatAnimeSnob. He did a critical anime overview of Fist of the North Star, which I clicked on because I know he's a fan of this, and I wanted to see if he was still a fan of it, because he's had a pattern lately of kind of turning on some shows, so I wanted to see what his thoughts were as an even more cynical, critical type of person. And full disclosure, his written review is different from this review, because I distinctly remember reading his review of Fist of the North Star and convincing me to watch it myself. And I watched it a couple years ago at this point, and I really liked it. I liked it a whole lot. And I always really admired him for that review and doing that. And it's not the same thing here. It's not the same review. For one thing, I don't know why, just visual wise, I know he really doesn't care much about the presentation of his videos. But I don't know why he used new footage from Fist of the North Star, like from the new OVAs or just the new stuff that came out in like the 2000s, I guess. When he says in the review that don't watch them, only watch the original TV anime and the film tie-in, because the ones that he's showing you now, that he doesn't acknowledge that he's showing you them now. I don't know why. He's saying it's lifeless and shallow and whatever, and I believe that, but I don't know why you're then using that footage. I don't get it. Maybe you had access to it, maybe you didn't want to bother with, at least use the original tie-in movie then, if you were worried about sifting through all these episodes of the original Fist. But I get it, but in that case it's just use screenshots. You're known for your lack of care in visual editing, so just use screenshots or the cover or something. That would have been better. It was just a confusing choice for me. But that wasn't the main problem with it. It was really his writing here, and his choice of not really selling you on Fist of the North Star. He kind of just described it in a way that was this doesn't have anything of the shonen anime I don't like. It doesn't have tournaments. It doesn't take place in a school. It doesn't have this, that. And he just kept talking about what it doesn't have. And doesn't really sell you on it. And he's not really talking that much. He mentions how the great stuff, it's very repetitive, and he kind of gets marred in the critical stuff you can say about it. And he doesn't really sell you on it. And he's yeah, it's repetitive and simple and not too deep or whatever. But no, he's not really selling you on the fact that Kenshiro's a really compelling character. The people he encounters that can also fight, like Toki and the people with the South Fist and the North Fist, or the North Fist candidates, are really interesting characters and really compelling, and it's awesome. It's kick-ass. But he's talking about how these days, the characters exploding is not too sensational, but back then you should have been there. You should have been there when we grew up on this. It was shocking at the time, and it's come on, dude. It's still cool. With fucking Ray slicing people up with just his fingers, and it's really compelling, actually. I think Fist of the North Star's violence is way less shallow than you think than you sell it here. I don't know. I think it could have been way better on selling this, and it's something you like. That's the worst thing about that. I can't even imagine you talking about these shows that you don't like and painting them in this negative light that probably isn't even that true. That's the thing. And I always tell people about Snob's opinions, if he recommends you something, definitely watch it. It's probably really good. And it's been the case for me almost every time. Everything that he likes, I've really enjoyed. But if he criticizes or like tells you not to watch something and it like is a negative review, don't necessarily trust it, because there's probably other reasons that it's just not to his taste, or he's not very he's very 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 biased in what he. And I like that, at least in this review, that he was very upfront with that. It's like, that's not what I'm into, sort of deal. But that doesn't he doesn't like use that, he doesn't like withhold any animosity. He lets all that animosity out, and it's very clear and like feels very biased, right? And I don't know, it's like, I get that's kind of a cool thing with critics, is like, you've got to get their taste, but especially with Snob, when it really is clearly the fact that he's kind of spiraling, and he's kind of like an Ouroboros. He's just kind of chewing out his existing favorites until he doesn't like anything. It just kind of feels like that, right? And it's not something consistent as a critic, I think. But this was just really disappointing, especially the fact that this was the guy that got me to watch Fist of the North Star, and it's one of my favorites. I mean, it's not like in my top 10 or something, but if I was thinking about like shonen anime, like battle shonen that I've seen, Fist of the North Star is one of the better ones. And I'm really thankful that I got to see it early, because now I'm getting into these other much more famous long running stuff with kind of an interesting frame of mind and approaching it correctly. I think Fist of North Star is really valuable to watch, especially, I love the anime, and this was just really, it just sucks. I'm clear about my influence on Snob, from Snob, and I respect the guy, but it sucks that like this is the kind of stuff he puts out. It sucks. Let's go into some request videos. It's really just one this time. But we're talking about a request from HazelNeverTalks. Wanted me to discuss this one that came out 8 years ago, and it's the only video on this person's channel. And I think they linked this to a Nico Nico video, so it's like the author, and so it might have been someone else's. It could be kind of like a re-upload, but it's pretty popular. It's got like nearly 2 million views. And yeah, Hazel wanted me to talk about it. Courage to Tell a Lie, and it's a sequence in Monogatari. Have not seen this series yet. I plan to next year, but you never know. And it's basically using this instrumental track and synchronizing the way that they're talking, and maybe kind of like speeding it up, or like not slowing it down so much, but like timing it in such a way that it's to the music. And using those series of quotes and stuff, and the quotes are kind of watermarked on the screen as well. And it's a conversation between the snail girl and Araragi. And I guess it has a pretty an interesting significance for people who have seen the show, but I have not. But as an experiment, like on the technical side, I think it's really interesting and kind of evocative. I was a little disappointed that it turns out that it kind of just loops itself 3 times. The dialogue, it does the dialogue scene, and then it plays it to you 2 times again over. I think it could have been better if it established it with that one scene, maybe do it a second time, or maybe do it repeat it for the last time, but somewhere in there try to make it a genuine AMV, and like really trying to like show the audience visually maybe the irony of this scene. Like, I guess like I was reading the comments a little bit, and I guess like the snail girl, she's saying things that like there's implications later of like, oh, she didn't keep her word or something like that, or something about this scene that makes it poignant. I would have loved to see that poignancy showcased in this video itself, right? Even if it might be spoilers or something. I mean, if that's fine. I mean, if that's compelling and it gets people to watch it or re-experience those moments, I think that's great. I was just disappointed that it did kind of repeat itself 3 times like that, even though it is kind of evocative and like compelling. So you see it again, and it still kind of has a similar effect. But by the 3rd time, it's like, okay, it's like, oh, all right. I feel like it could have built itself upon it and make it more striking. But I do really like the concept behind this, and the technical prowess, the skill to time it in this way with the music, I think is really cool, and I think it worked really well. And granted, I don't know if this is all the same conversation or if it's from different scenes. I've not seen this show, so I don't have as much background to say about it. But yeah, for what it was, I hate to say that, right? I really did enjoy this. But I just felt like it could have had more. But I think it's certainly an idea that can inspire some people, and maybe they can embellish on it or surpass it. I think it's a good influence. I think it's a good influence piece. Now for the videos that I thought were decent, pretty good. And the first one is this AMV from Seaweed Ambassador, Different Humanities. It's taking Kimono Zume, and what's the song? I don't know. Send this to your Valentine crush from the blanks. And I hadn't heard this song before, but it's pretty cool. I was just a little taken back by how short it was, because I was getting into it, especially Seaweed's. I think it kept like it started off really simple with just clip selection, and then he started adding effects to it and really playing with it, and I thought it was really cool. And I liked that, like, having seen Kimono Zume, he was part of my my patron group watch for this. Having seen it, it's like it's cool that you're taking from the bulk of the series and not just like from one episode. Although I think towards the end, when it's starting to be more effects heavy, it's more towards like one episode or one sort of scene. But I thought it was really cool. I don't have too much else to say about it. It does kind of go by really quick, but I do love my AMVs. Thank you. That was really cool. I watched an animation from Narmak. It's the SpongeBob anime guy. I feel bad since it's gonna be his thing. And he put out this surprise. I was surprised out of like knowing his other things that he's making. He's trying to take this niche of like Western cartoons and turning them into anime. I was surprised to see this. It was just called Naruto, I guess. And it's not what you would expect. You'd think it's kind of like a Naruto parody, or like kind of lampooning Naruto in a way. But it's actually a depiction of the of Naruto's birth, which I don't think is the first episode. I've seen the first episode a couple of years ago, but this was like kind of spoiling the true what actually happened during his birth with like his parents and stuff like that. Only being kind of funny and having a lot of similar jokes and a lot of similar reaction type of things. I think there's not too much versatility in the comedy here, but it's still really creative, and there's some touches specifically with the animation that I think were really cool, and shows that like there's care and attention put into this, and it isn't just like slapdash, click for views kind of thing. Not cynical, I suppose would be the word for it. But I thought it was funny, just not gut busting or anything like that. I did think it was more compelling than his SpongeBob thing, only because it was something that like I wasn't expecting. Because what I was expecting was like the lampoon, just making fun of Naruto, having him and Sasuke kiss or something like that, and mentioning that shit. But it was actually like kind of abridging this particular scene, which is like kind of the prologue, I guess. But it's not really. I don't know when this scene happens in Naruto. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't made this public on like Twitter at least, but I am planning to watch Naruto next year. I'll make this announcement now. I don't know, it's not a big deal or anything, but I'm planning on watching all of Naruto next year, watching like 2 episodes a day. So that'll be a lot of fun. My first time going through that story. But I've been spoiled to a lot of things about Naruto, so I wasn't too upset with seeing this or anything like that. But I think it was unexpected and kind of interesting. But it's kind of a lot of repetitive jokes, and it's not the funniest thing, but that's not a big deal. It's cool though. It was cool to see that Narmak was kind of actually going to legit anime and not just kind of the aesthetics of anime and like faux anime kind of deal. It's like, oh, it's sort of anime, I guess. Like, this is actual. I don't know. Not to be pretentious or something. I just thought that was cool. I did watch the Hentai Man's review of Itsudate My Santa, a very anime Christmas. And it is very kind of plot summary, but I think it's okay with this particular OVA because I have heard of it. I did listen to a podcast kind of skewering it and everything, but I really appreciate that Hentai Man utilized a lot of clips from the show. Not like clip selection, but like not interjecting so much and letting the anime play for itself, and he kind of like guides you through it and abridges some things, like, and then this happens, and then he plays a scene for you, and that sort of curation to kind of guide you through it so you don't have to watch it yourself was kind of interesting. And it was a different kind of plot summary. I'm not a big fan of plot summary, but I just thought that was cool that he made those choices. And he didn't unfortunately go too far into the second episode, but I did like that he noted that like some of the sequences are literally just like frame for frame with like just different outfits or something. I thought that was interesting. But there wasn't too much information on that, and I was curious about it. But maybe that's, it's like, hey, watch it for yourself kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of nice. But yeah, I thought there was a neat little video there. I'm happy he covered it, even though it's kind of whatever. It's Date My Santa. I believe it's the same author as Love Hina and other such works, which is, tells you anything. But I was happy to see that and kind of experience it in this way. And I was also happy that Hentai Man didn't really shit that much all over it. Like, I think this could have very well come off as sort of a Bennett clone type of video, where this is kind of what Bennett does. He kind of summarizes it for you and guides you through it and riffs on it, sort of deal. But I don't think Hentai Man really riffed on it too much. His humor is a lot drier and just kind of like very flat observations. It's not like trying to get a laugh out of you, sort of deal. But I think that was smart, because it just kind of like, he's just guiding you through it and not so much like trying to overstep it or outperform it, right? It's just, which is like kind of like for me at least. I've grown to not be a fan of that. But yeah, I thought that was a good video from him. Okay, and now what I thought were the best videos of the week. These are getting shorter and shorter, huh? And I'm okay. I guess those long ranter days are gone. But maybe that's also because there's only like 10 videos and I don't know, not as many people. But that's okay. Maybe I'm very succinct with my thoughts these days. Maybe that's it. That's okay. But the first thing I wanted to point to y'all is a big project that just wrapped up from me and Hazel, and the full upload is on Hazel's channel somehow. So like, I tried uploading this on my channel, both the clean and the uncensored, and they both get blocked. So this might get blocked at some point after, but it's lasted a couple of days. It's still there. It's pretty cool. And it's so unpopular that like Hazel started finally putting out her own stuff again, after I took up all her time, after I hogged her, basically. And those two AMVs are really good, really freaking good. The SSSS Gridman one was killer, and I get that she was a little dissatisfied with the Kimaguri Orange Road one, but there were some really interesting ideas in that one too. But like, I bring them up to say that of course both of them are outperforming this video as well. It's just not popular. It's all right, fine. This is a collab that I did with her. Taking episodes of Manga Sekai Mukashi Banashi and setting them to Earl Sweatshirt's Some Rap Songs. So it's the whole album, which is why the video would normally get blocked. And it didn't do so well. I hate to focus on its success, view wise and everything, because it's, I don't know. It's just my feelings on it. I don't want to feel that way, but it just, that's just my honest feelings on it, I guess. But this is the full upload. This is all of them. It's 15 AMVs. They're all different. They all have different things going on with them, and they're really cool. I really, really enjoyed making them. I just didn't enjoy how it was received. That's all it is. So, I mean, hop on it if you haven't already, or if you don't give a shit. I don't know. I don't know why people don't give a shit. Maybe it's because sorry about me belly aching. That's all it is. Yeah, it's hard to, I don't know. Anyway, love it. thank you for working with me on that, Hazel. And yeah, yeah. I don't know. Sorry, I'm such a downer on this one. I watched another accented cinema video, and he's talking about Saint Onisan. He didn't have the title of the anime in the video, and that's okay. What anime? Like, it's not a clickable title, but he does it's called the video is Jesus X Buddha, the bromantic anime, which is talking about Saint Onisan, and I like his perspective on how a lot of Western Christmas movies, they kind of talk about the toxicity of materialism in contrast to spiritualism when celebrating the holidays. And Saint Onisan actually kind of inverts that and flips the script, where it's spiritual figures indulging in materialism, and it's how, like, they never once visit a church when they're celebrating Christmas. Jesus is just like happy, and like he's like experiencing all the lights that people are putting up and the presents and Santa and the Christmas tree and everything like that, and the kind of the secular Christmas traditions, and he's just reveling in that. I think that was really an interesting observation from him, from Accented Cinema, and just kind of talking about the people's reactions, and the Jesus and Buddha never force their religion on people. They just kind of embody it, and people naturally gravitate to them, and like they get it, even though they never actually know it's actually Jesus and Buddha. But I think that was a really cool observation. It's a great OVA movie. I think it's a 2-episode OVA as well. But it's weird. It's a weird thing. There's also a live action movie and based on a manga. But no, I mean, I'm happy he brought that up. And the only reason it wasn't a Tokyo Godfathers video is because he did that last year, which he mentioned. And I just thought that was funny because it's like, yeah, like everyone was making a Tokyo Godfathers video this year, it seemed, which was funny. No offense to those people. It was just kind of funny. But yeah, I was happy to see that from him, and I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was awesome. This was a surprise. Japanophile put out a podcast with Zach Davison, and it's called Yokai and Manga, an interview with Zach Davison. And if you don't know who Zach Davison is, you might know him on Twitter. He's a little abrasive to me and to some other people. He gets himself in some hot water, and people love quote tweeting him and screen capping things he said before and things like that. And it kind of, a lot of people in my circles, at least, of people that I know, he's often demonized on Twitter, at least. He is the translator for a lot of the official releases for a lot of these classic manga, like the Leiji manga, Go Nagai, like the recent Devilman thing, manga thing. But also his specific love for Shigeru Mizuki. I may have mispronounced that. But it's the Gegege no Kitaru author, and his works, and bringing that to the West as well. I thought that was really interesting, and I think he gets really humanized in this interview. Japanophile has a whole list of things, and it's very structured and regimented. And he's like, oh, go to this, a little different. It flows really, really well, and there's no like aimlessness or meandering feeling to it. And you feel like you really get who Zach is, where he comes from, his upbringing. I thought his anecdote about being a kid and growing up with Star Blazers and all of these things that he didn't know was anime and nobody did. I think that's kind of the difference that a lot of people. He mentions how like a lot of people think Toonami and Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball was the first advent of anime in America, but it wasn't. It was actually just Speed Racer, Star Blazers, and that's true to a point. I just want to push back on that a little bit, only because you're right. It is the first, because like Astro Boy was also the first. And it's the first TV anime. The only reason that Tezuka was able to get that off the ground was because he was able to make money off of licensing it to the rest of the world. They wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise. So that's a really fundamental thing. So Astro Boy is a whole part of that. But nobody really knew or cared that it was from Japan, and they don't boast that. And I think the difference with the 90s with Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon and all that is, along with an underground and certain fans and people advocating that, no, guys, this is from Japan, it's called anime, and this is where it's from, this sort of thing. I think that push with this new wave of like introducing kids to this stuff, I think that's kind of more, I think that's really, really extra significant, because it's like a lot of that generation, if they knew it was anime, how many of them would have, because like Zach says he had an aha moment that, oh, they're all connected, they're from somewhere, they're from Japan. And his aha moment was his family taking him to this double feature of Popeye, the Robin Williams Popeye movie, and Galaxy Express 39. And I never heard that was happening. I'm like, that's crazy. And that's like his aha moment and the realization that this is anime. And everyone has those things, because we all have that with, like, we would see Yu-Gi-Oh! or all these other things, and we as children wouldn't care really, and we wouldn't know. But people being vocal in the 90s and the 2000s and so on, making this a thing that it's anime, it's from Japan, that's a very specific thing, that push is really significant compared to Star Blazers and Speed Racer, where only a handful of people ever really found out. Because I hear anecdotes from like some people I worked with, some adults that I've worked with who are like 40, who were that age back then. My roommate's dad, for example, he like, my roommate tells me how like his dad grew up on all this anime and he had no idea. And like, you think about that and it's like, yeah, that's cool that they all actually had that experience and that's nostalgic for them, but it never manifested and never became, oh, it's anime. They never had that aha moment. I think that aha moment is really critical. And the sooner that happens for people, the more likely it becomes that they become an anime fan. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like there's some nuance to kind of discuss there that I think is interesting that Zach doesn't necessarily bring up, but like bringing up that anecdote and talking about that, I think that was something to chew on. And there's a lot of stuff like that. He does inevitably go into his thoughts on translation, and I'm happy that Japanophile doesn't skirt around the very hot topic of fan scanlations and things like that. But the way that the conversation evolved and learning Zach's background of like he never intended to be a translator. His intention was to get Shigeru Mizuki's manga, the Gege no Kitaro author, to bring that to the West. And that was his goal. And it just kind of evolved that way. It's like, oh, I could do this for other things. And that's kind of how he stumbled into this profession of translating. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And again, the conversation had grown to that point where you understood that he has had personal connection and contact with these authors. Like, he's talked with Go Nagai about releasing Devilman in English. And I don't know any better, any more security you have than that, where it's not some schmuck who's trying to put in his agenda or something onto this other guy's work. He is really trying to bring this to the West in a way that people would enjoy it, or that's authentic. That's not just that they would enjoy it, I would say, because he actually does talk about how he understands that Go Nagai is being evocative and being edgy and challenging to the audience, and he doesn't want to hide any of that. And so he's like, if you fuck with that, you fuck with that, and if you don't want to, then it's like, well, that's what it is. And kind of sales be damned. It was the vibe that I got out of it. He wasn't trying to sell it. He's just trying to bring it over. And I really respect and commend that attitude over trying to sell it. Because trying to sell it kind of has some negative consequences. Or has some side effects, I suppose. It defiles the work. No, well, it does a little bit if done rampantly. And his personal perspective, and he really insists it's a personal, subjective thing. He's not trying to say it's the objectively correct or something, but it's all rooted in respecting the artist. If they don't want it published in English, it's not going to happen. He says that explicitly. He's like, I don't, you can go read Japanese or whatever and whatever, but like, you have to respect the artist first and foremost. Having had connections with these manga artists and authors. So I really commend and respect that. And I thought this really humanizes him beyond just the kind of the rough tweets that people love spreading all over the place. And, it's unfortunate that he's kind of become misunderstood in that way. But that's not much it's a little bit to his detriment because he's the one kind of putting himself out there in that form. But I try to be affable and understanding of as many people as possible. I don't want to try to grow any animosity towards him as much as it's tough, But yeah, I thought that was a really valuable interview. I'm really happy that Japanophile did that. And yeah, I thought it was excellent. Definitely check that out. Hey, there's a Christmas EP from Flip Down Yonder. Zen Huxtable adds a little. Oop! I wanted to click on it because I wanted to look at the track list again. He has a little animation added to it, and it's his typical style. I'm not much of a music analyst or something, but like he has this typical improvisational thing, and it's mostly just piano, and it's very loose and fast and a little sloppy in places. There's kind of like, it kind of dances all over it. It kind of feels like a one take kind of thing. And I like it because you get the impression of the song that he's playing without just listening to it again. Right. Like he could probably, like, I assume that he's talented enough to play it carbon copy 1-for-1 that you will just never know it's him. But like, you can just listen to the official recordings if you want, right? Or just whatever. But if you're there for him, I think he infuses his own personality and artistic. I don't want to say flair because it's so cliche at this point. I always say it. I don't know. Spin. I feel like it's a little. I feel it's a little. I don't know. It's rude or something. It's like, yeah, yes, you had your little spin on it. I don't know. It doesn't sound right to me. Yeah, but like I love his shit so much, and yeah, that's an EP of his that he put out on the 23rd. So check that out, por favor. I know it's past Christmas at this point, but it's really comfy. It's also rather short. Like he doesn't play the whole 6 minutes of Christmas Time Is Here or something. Like these tracks go by really quick. But it's awesome. Definitely check this shit out, please. And lastly, I did want to talk about what I thought was the best video this week, and it's mostly because it's a video. Like I didn't feel. I think I enjoyed Zach Davison's podcast with Japanophile a little more, but that's just because it's my shtick. I should have also mentioned that Japanophile actually edits it, and it's not just one still image. There's actually a lot of images he uses cycled throughout, so it didn't feel like you had to just listen to it, sort of deal, which was really cool. Sorry to keep on that one, but what I thought was kind of the best one, which in terms of like polish and like changing, enlightening and opening a different perspective, I guess. Yata Kun had a Demon Slayer video, and I wouldn't expect a Demon Slayer video to be one of my favorite videos. My favorite video that came out this week. It's called Unraveling Demon Slayer's Perfect Protagonist, and yeah, it's really cool. What I really respect with Yata Kun with this video, and this is the case with his other videos as well, but he really goes hard with the editing and doing different tricks that like they don't necessarily have that much meaning, but it keeps your attention. It's not just like flat clip selection. Like this is a number of moments where he like uses this like a color mat to kind of like close and open to different scenes, and it's kind of, there's not really much of a discernible point to it, but it is keeping your attention, and it is something different that like feels intentional. and it's not, you're not just kind of glazing over it and you just kind of start thinking of other things, you know. You're able to keep attention to what he's saying, and I think that's the value and the importance of editing. I think he does a great job with editing, to be honest. And there's a lot of different things he's talking about here. It's a 40-minute video, and you know, he does focus on Tanjiro for a good portion of it, but I felt that he was talking really about Demon Slayer as a whole. You know, it goes into Zenitsu a little bit, the demons, and kind of why the perspective of that and the Demon Slayers. And, you know, I appreciated all of that, and especially just because it's a Demon Slayer thing, and I haven't seen Demon Slayer, because it's one of those Shonen Jump things that, like, I'm just going to be waiting for the next thing anyway, and I don't really want to just go into the manga or something. So I don't have much motivation to check it out, and because of its unbridled success, I think it's very easy for people like myself to feel very cynical towards it, and it's like, whatever, dude, it's a Shonen, why is it so popular, right? And you're kind of questioning, like, what's going on, sort of thing. And Yata Kun's not necessarily, he kind of starts with that and kind of its importance and why it motivated him to make this video, but he doesn't necessarily tie it back at the end being like, that's why it's so successful, or something like that, which I appreciated. Not like it would have been a knock against the video, but something I noticed was like, yeah, Yata Kun doesn't necessarily, he kind of divorces it from its success, sort of deal, and just kind of is talking about it objectively. And the real thing that was remarkable to me, and kind of what I thought was what made it the best video for me, was that it really changed my perspective with Demon Slayer in terms of really respecting it as a conscious work, and the very, a lot of the conscious choices that are happening here, and you know, identifying that what Tanjiro's role is here and why he's written the way he is, and it didn't come off with any cynicism, because I can imagine, like, the things that Yata Kun was mentioning with the demons all having a sympathetic backstory, which all ties into Nezuko at the beginning with, like, oh, they're not, she's not completely lost, there is some humanity to her, that they were human at one time, and there is some emotional resonance and effectiveness to that, whereas a cynical me that, you know, as the Demon Slayer was airing, that I noticed that was just kind of silly, and a lot of people kind of memed on it, is just the like, you could set your watch to, it's always right when the demon's about to die, do they suddenly get a sympathetic backstory, and you're meant to care about them, even though they just did a bunch of this awful stuff. And like Yata Kun mentions that, and not necessarily the cynicism that most people have, but it's more like, you know, it's mentioning at this point to all, it contextualized all of it to have it make sense, I think. And that's what I mean, with like really finding the core appeal to these anime, and not necessarily indulging in fan perspective. I think I'm reflecting on AnimeSnob's Fist in the North Star video, where I think a lot of his framing is, and a lot of what he was saying was coming from a cynical fan's perspective of, like, it doesn't have this that you're thinking of, but it's also simple, and he's sort of acknowledging the potential faults that it might have, or people, the way that he's kind of rationalizing why fans might not like it, and it's always from that perspective, but he's completely missing the core appeal and why people should watch this show. And I also like that Yata Kun's not necessarily outright watch Demon Slayer or it's actually really great or something. I really like kind of the modesty that he's demonstrating in this video too. One weird thing with the video that I noticed was it was split into 3 parts, but then the timeline had time codes of, like, all the different paragraphs and the little tangents and things, and I thought that was kind of weirdly structured, especially since, like, you would have the part 3 happen, like, visually, but then the time code wouldn't be there yet. It wouldn't be synced to that. I was like, what? Huh? I don't know. This is a personal thing, personal gripe. I don't know. It was just distracting, but it's not like a bad thing. It was like, took me out of it or something, but it was just like, I wonder why he chose that. There's a lot of tangents of, like, it's reminding me of this Harry Potter quote, or this book, or Magic the Gathering, or stuff like that. And I like that actually because it's showing this sort of like well-readness, and it's not like in your head with like I've consumed shonen since I was a child type of thing that I think a lot of people who talk about these particular anime have in mind, where it's like it's not your typical shonen protagonist. Like I don't think Yata Kun really mentions that at all. He actually compares like what Tanjiro is trying to do as a character being stable, or not passive, but like basically like doesn't change. He's very firm, and like stays the same the whole time. And he doesn't compare it with another shonen. He compares it with Barakamon, which I thought was interesting. And but to that point, I actually thought it was interesting. I liked the perspective that the protagonist of this series is someone that doesn't change and has this perspective that changes the environment around him, and all the characters surrounding him are the the evolving type of characters that like change over the course of the story because of Tanjiro's steadfast, empathetic, positive mind type of thinking, and they get affected by it, and he's not necessarily changing. And some people don't like that, right? And I think because and the reason I bring that up is because I think Ichigo is very much like that. He's the one that's very steadfast. He has this narrow, I'm just going to protect people. My friend is in trouble. I have a narrow, laser focused on doing this thing, and doesn't change or evolve or get challenged in the same way. He just has the same frame of mind, and that happens for the majority of the story up until Fullbring, because he has this steadfastness, and he has that narrow focus thing, and he changes everyone around him, including these like thousands of years old spirits like the Soul Society, and even like the head captain or whatever. They kind of have a different, like a change of heart, or kind of a different perspective. And it seems like Demon Slayer has the kind of same idea, where he's changing the idea of how demon slayers can act, or how they view demons. Instead of something to be eradicated and be demonized, it's something to be emphasized with, because understand that these are all former humans type of thing, and there's a heart behind it. That just reminded me of Bleach, and I thought that was really interesting. And then like with Fullbring, I'm not going to go into a Bleach analysis of something, but it's like it's at Fullbring when it becomes about Ichigo, and Ichigo realizing things, and then it's when he's actually changing, which I think was really interesting. And I wonder about the length, because Demon Slayer is done by now, and I get that Yata Kun only wanted to focus on the 26 episode TV anime, but it really got me thinking of like, oh, what the hell happened at the end of the manga there? Because I was hearing a bunch of people kind of complain about it and the ending, and I won't spoil anything or say some certain things, but like from what I was hearing, it's like, oh, that does sound really weird. Especially with the knowledge that I now have about Demon Slayer, having not seen it. But I think this really puts me in a better mood to watch it. Not now. I'm still kind of like, I'm going to wait for more of it to be adapted, or all of it to be adapted before going into it, because it's going to be another 10 years or whatever, or if it ever gets fully adapted, we don't know. Time. It's a thing. But this really put me in a better perspective on Demon Slayer, and not to kind of clown on it. I was clowning on it just last night, really, with some people. I think it's an easy target now. But this really puts it in a positive light, and I was very happy with it. I think it's a fantastic Demon Slayer video. Having not consumed Demon Slayer or anything, it doesn't have any of the cynicism or anything like that. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was excellent. And yeah, that's going to do it for this edition of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to my patrons, including Beamburst, Boo, Hazel, Kuiper, My Anime Pod, Najbeb, Unique Namosaurus, and Yellow Cheese. You guys are great. I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully. Yo, peace.